Hello and welcome back. So a fellow YouTuber, Feminism Debunked, he's an Australian YouTuber. He does good work. Check out his channel. He has asked me to upload all of his Grace Tame videos and share those on my channel. I don't know why he has more subscribers than I do, so I'm not sure if this is really going to help the fight against Grace Tame. Now, who is Grace Tame? She is an anti-male feminist who's, down with the patriarchy, which we know is not a real thing, etc., etc. She was named 2021 Australian of the Year in Australia. Why was she named 2021 Australian of the Year? Well, because she got a law changed in Tasmania. There was a law in Tasmania that said if you were a victim of certain crimes, you couldn't speak out about your experience about those crimes. And when she was a teenager, she had an affair with an adult man. It was a consensual affair on her part, on her end. Now, the law says a teenager of her age can't consent. So it wasn't actually consensual, but, as much as she could consent, she did. And she was even sneaking around behind her family's back, engaging in this affair. But now she says that it was a horrible, terrible, just grotesque experience that she went through, and it was harrowing, and how she survived, she doesn't know, basically, is the gist of what she's saying. She's got her fame now. She's got her fortunes because of this. And how many other young women in Australia, how many thousands of teenage girls have had this experience that she had, similar experience? None of them have been made Australian of the Year. None of them. And none of them have gained any money from their experience, probably. Some of them probably have. There probably been lawsuits, etc., book tours, stuff like that, of some of these people who've gone through this experience. And you don't hear anything from the teenage boys who are going through this with someone. But let's go ahead and get into this video. Before we do, please remember to like, comment, share, subscribe, do all that stuff. And I'll catch up to you later on in this video. So let's take a listen here, see what this is all about.
Assault survivor Grace Tame was logged on to the summit today and joins us now. Grace, we heard that the Prime Minister spoke of the summit being a platform for change. Are you hopeful that that is what the summit will be?
Oh, look, yes, I am hopeful that this will be a platform for change, but I'm also grateful and reassured because this is not the only platform for change.
How do you mean?
People, advocates, activists, the community have been working tirelessly in this space. All of this work predates the summit and it will live on beyond the summit.
Grace, you're very critical of the Prime Minister's speech. What were you hoping for him to say?
As frustrated as I am by the hypocrisies, by the insensitivity towards survivors, by the platitudes, I don't want to focus on the negatives. This is ultimately a timestamp. The entire nation is watching and the government has an opportunity to listen and learn to all of the asks, all of the major themes that come up from this summit, that have come up already and that will come up tomorrow. And we can only hope that those things are applied. We can only hope that the government puts its money, its policies and its laws where its mouth is.
Rightly or wrongly, the negativity has been the focus today, with most people reporting about what you said about the Prime Minister rather than what was achieved at the summit.
Look, that is as may be, but I think it is more important than anything else that we remember. Ultimately, we do have to put our differences aside and we have to work together to create actual change, actual structural change here as a united force. Yes, I did have some personal issues with the way that Prime Minister used survivors' stories not on their terms, which is completely unethical, but we have to focus on the positives. We have to focus on the positives.
Grace, what's the most important action the government could take right now in your eyes to impact change on this?
The most important thing that the government can do is re-centre its focus to prevention, to education, stopping these things from happening.
That has been a focus of a lot of governments now for quite a few years. We've seen, respectful relationships, for example, programs like that being introduced in schools. So I'm thinking here particularly of state governments. And one of the frustrations of advocates has been that in spite of that, over the past few years, there hasn't been significant change in the outcome when it comes to violence against women. Why is it that you think that remains the centre of the issue?
Because although there has been some attention put on primary prevention, it's still not the main focus. When you look at the $1.1 billion that's been injected into the issue of women's safety, only $35 million has been put into primary prevention. And if we look at the program Respect Matters, that's for consent education. Originally, that was only $2.8 million. In 2019, they injected that, and that was for a 3-year period. And then in the 2020 Education, Skills and Employment budget statement, that amount of $2.8 million was inexplicably slashed to $1.36 million for the same 3-year period. And as my friend Shana Bremner pointed out, if you divide 1.36 million by 4 million students that are enrolled in schools across the nation, you get 11 cents per student, and you can't even buy a milkshake with 11 cents.
I wonder if that milkshake was a very specifically chosen reference by you there, Grace. Thank you very much for speaking to us tonight. We appreciate your time.
No worries. Thanks, guys.
Well, we're now joined by Anne.
This is
All right, so this is a public service announcement from Australia that I've covered before on my channel, but we can take a look at it again here. I'll have a lot of good things to say about it this time around too.
The story of a boy and a girl. It's a universal story and an Australian story. It's a story that occurs every 2 minutes, in fact. A story that happens 657 times a day, every day of the year, and in every kind of household and every city and region across Australia. This is the biggest story behind violence against women.
Universal story, huh? It's a universal story. Huh. That's interesting, considering I've never committed an act of violence against a woman. So, yeah, I don't know what to tell you. Universal story, my ass.
This story doesn't have a happy ending. Because this is the story of how gender inequality contributes to the murder of one Australian woman almost every week.
What about the 2 Australian men that are murdered almost every week?
Sounds like a tall tale, right? Let's take things back to the start. Here's the story of a regular woman. As a girl, she gets told how pretty she is, never how clever she is. That if she wears a short dress, she's asking for it. She grows up and gets used to being harassed by men on the street. That's just the way it is. Here's the story of a regular man.
Well, when harassment includes saying, "Hi, you look nice today," when that's considered harassment, and, don't know what to tell you, maybe change your definition of harassment?
As a boy, he learns that women aren't equal to men from a very early age.
You're right. They're better than men. According to society and according to biology, they're the most important ones.
Even though both his parents work, on the weekends his mum does the housework while dad watches sport. When he cries about being bullied at school, his dad tells him to stop being such a girl and just punch him right back. Technically speaking, we'd say that these social norms, practices and structures have shaped both the boy and the girl, creating a society where women are valued less and men are expected to be dominant and in control.
Can you explain to me how women are valued less in our society? Please. In what way can you point to something and says, look, right there, women are valued less? I know you're going, the wage gap. Oh my goodness, the wage gap. Okay, even if the wage gap were real, that doesn't mean women are valued less. It just means their labor is valued less. The wage gap isn't real, so it doesn't really matter anyway.
In such a world, disrespect and hostility is excused, and violence against women is far more likely.
No, it's not. Please show me the statistics on this. Please show me the experimentation you've done to prove this. How is it that violence against women is acceptable? Who thinks that it's okay for a 200-pound man to hit a 110-pound person? Who thinks that? Whether they're female or male, you shouldn't be going around hitting people smaller than you.
But back to our story. The girl grows up into a woman, the boy grows into a man, and they begin to date. He jokes that he hopes she doesn't get fat now that we're together.
Well, maybe if women actually put an emphasis on staying in shape, then he wouldn't have to make that joke. But most women just want to eat as much as they want to and get as fat as they want to and not have to pay any consequences for it. The fact of the matter is, men are all too eager to date fat women, and I won't do it. And I think that every other man out there should just be like, nope, you're fat. You don't get a date. You had to be in shape to get a date. It's that simple.
She's not sure whether she should laugh. They have the same education and do similar work, yet he earns more money. He's quickly promoted, like other men in the company, while she gets overlooked.
I've never had a female boss, ever. Never, ever. Oh my goodness. It's like everywhere I go, it's just men when I work. There's never been a woman who's made more money than me in any of the jobs I've ever had. Ever. It's just like, it's a weird thing. I don't know how that's possible even, but that's the way it is.
At home, she does all the household chores, and he takes control of their joint finances, seeing as he's the main breadwinner and all. When they're at the pub, he puts her down in front of his mates.
He's just a dick then. To think that I would actually put my wife down in front of people, that's so disrespectful. I wouldn't do that.
His friends stay quiet. In the morning, he wakes up and blames the alcohol and stress. He always has an excuse. When she gets pregnant, her boss says she can't come back part-time. After the baby is born, the lack of flexible job opportunities and childcare keeps her out of the workforce.
Somebody has to raise the children. Somebody has to. It doesn't have to be the woman. It could be the man, but somebody has to raise the children.
She is socially isolated and financially dependent on him. He controls...
Yeah, well, that's actually a good thing, as long as the husband is not a dick.
...decision-making, and her. They are not equals. She is dependent on him for everything. so she never tells anyone that he has started to hit her. She doesn't say anything to her family or friends. She grows more isolated. She has nothing.
Aren't there like women's shelters in Australia? Aren't there like a lot of them? I'm pretty sure that abused women can get help in Australia. Somebody from Australia, go down in the comments and let me know.
Else but him. So she lives with the violence until their story ends, one way or another. This story isn't a one-off. It's a story shared by 1 in 4 Australian women who have experienced physical or sexual violence from a current or former partner. And it's a story of 1 in 5 women.
Did you know that men in the Western world never experience violence from an intimate partner, from a female intimate partner even? Did you know that boys, they never get beaten by their mothers, ever. Never, ever. It's this weird thing where only women are the recipients of violence. It's so weird. I can't explain it. So ridiculous.
Women, since the age of 15, who experience sexual violence, including rape, 1 in 4 emotional violence, and 1 in 3 women physical violence. But it's also...
Notice there's no statistics that they're showing, and no statistics on men that they're showing. They're just making these claims.
A story that affects children. More than half of the women who experienced violence had children in their care when the violence occurred.
And how many of these women are committing violent acts against their children?
Victims and perpetrators. Violence against women is the conclusion often reached after a life lived in a society where women and men aren't treated equally. But we...
Can you show me the research statistics on this, please?
You and I can change the narrative. Better education, policies, practices, support and funding can prevent this all too common story. When women and men have equal power, value, and opportunities in relationships and in society, violence against women is less likely.
Again, can you prove that? In fact, I would say it's probably the other way around. But what do I know?
By nurturing caring, respectful, and equal relationships, and by creating equitable and inclusive communities, workplaces, and institutions, we can create a society of equality and respect, where violence against women is unthinkable. Let's change the story, because ending violence against women starts with gender equality.
Yeah, again, you got to prove that to me. Well, that's the first of Feminism Debunks Grace Tame's videos, I think. Anyway, we'll go through some more of them, and thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.